UFOs in a Strange Universe. Welcome to UFOs in a Strange Universe. I'm Ivanhoe Chaput. I'm 78 years old, and I've been studying UFOs and the paranormal since my first UFO sighting when I was 13 years old. I hope you enjoy my experiences and personal views on the strangeness of the UFO phenomenon in the following chapters of UFOs in a Strange Universe. Thoughts create entities. What if all my postulates presented in this book are possible within some form of altered reality? In essence, I ask, what is reality? One definition of reality is the state of things as they actually exist. From this, it can be surmised that there is a reality that can emanate from anyone that perceives or actually thinks within. In other words, my reality is not everyone's reality, since perception is only gauged from an individual's actuality. Since reality begins with perception of what's beyond our five senses, can an opposite or inverse reality also start with thought and manifest itself into physical reality? From the Toronto Society for Psychical Research Experiments, participants of this organization were able to manifest an entity by conjuring him up from nothing. This entity appeared to exist with a sense of free will and therefore reside within a reality that was invented for it. Also, in Skull, Norfolk, UK, between 1993 and 1998, known as the Skull Experiments, paranormal phenomena were witnessed by hundreds of people and documented by research scientists and investigators from all over the world. The experiments were conducted to research life after death. When spirit entities were contacted, there was a reality within their presence that indicated a non-physical realm. This video is worth watching at the Skull Experiment full documentary. This fascinating dive into the paranormal is as interesting as is the UFO enigma itself. I believe these phenomena are related, although seemingly quite distant from each other. They are diametrically opposed from the standpoint that UFOs are out there, somewhere in the skies, and these paranormal events are occurring somewhere in the vicinity of our being. Whether it be psychokinesis, remote viewing, claircognizance, telepathy, etc. Included are spiritual phenomena such as ghosts, apparitions, contact with the deceased, even mental abilities of savants with calculating and artistic skills. It really is a universe that's stranger than we can imagine. What if the universe is like the science fiction movie Forbidden Planet, where physical reality was made to exist by producing mere thoughts of what was wanted? There have been too many bizarre instances of things happening that can't be ignored, where thoughts have manifested a form that was visible. Jacques Vallée did research on trolls and gnomes, and found several instances that they actually had a form of reality to them. Then there's the elusive Bigfoot that has been photographed, witnessed by many, but never captured. There have been instances where people that have had their guns pointed directly at the creature, and for some reason, refused to shoot. Could it be that there was some sort of telepathic communication between them that sent a message not to shoot? Don't some pet owners also exhibit a form of connection between them and their pet? I've stared at my cat and have often wondered how she knew I was upset with her for scratching the furniture. After all I did was look at her. What if the universe and the reality of it is nothing like the intelligentsia, logical thinking humans, those deeply rooted in what they believe is reality, are clueless about how unreal the universe actually works? Can we and other physical, non-physical, or spiritual entities create reality from some unknown energy where collective thought can manifest and demonstrate literally anything the mind can conjure up? Thought may be an illustrative process rather than an elusive product of the mind. I've said many times in my books that thoughts are things. They may be more things than we ever thought. An imagination that's creating a thought in the mind happens very quickly, probably instantaneously. Thinking is a creative process that forms a mental reality. Whether it remains for some time or gets forgotten like waking up after a dream, thoughts are still things. In our three-dimensional reality, thought must be acted upon to bring what is created mentally into this three-dimensional realm. Often the thought is simply not possible to implement due to restrictions of physics. It's simply not possible to entertain and bring that thought into physical reality. Physical reality is the place where thought is essentially slowed to the point that it takes movement to bring a thought into a reality. To make a birdhouse, one must have the thought, then acquire the materials to build it. One might need plans or drawings with dimensions, then tools to cut pieces of wood or other materials. However, in a dream, thoughts move like fluid, and shift instantly from one scene into another. Within the physical universe, we essentially take thoughts, which causes us to move slowly through time, creating actions to comply with the laws of cause and effect. In this physical reality, when thoughts are kept as only thoughts, they will not manifest into physical reality without performing the physical work. But there's an entity known as an egregore. This is an entity that has been created in the mind and has the necessary focus instilled into them to perform on their own. As in the Toronto Society for Psychical Research experiments, an egregore was able to make wrappings on tabletops and actually tip them. This required the effort of several people and a year of diligent conjuring. Thought or basic sentience was responsible for this to happen. There have been experiments where groups of people have dwelled on one thought and achieved remarkable results. Dean Radin heads the Global Consciousness Project, which uses random number generators to detect shifts toward order during periods of widespread collective human attention, suggesting a subtle influence of consciousness on physical systems. The common thread in Radin's thought experiments is the exploration of whether focused human intention or collective consciousness can have a direct, measurable effect on the physical world. The creation of an egregore by a selected group of people is a smaller version of Dean Radin's large-scale consciousness experiments, but is nonetheless measurable as evidenced by the Toronto Society for Psychical Research. Egregores are non-physical entities or psychic entities that are created by collective thoughts of a distinct group of people. They can perpetuate their existence beyond the initial thoughts of individuals. Another created entity known as a doppelganger has appeared in folklore and mythology. Some have sworn as to their existence and were witness to them on many occasions. In 1845, a French teacher named Émilie Saget possessed the ability of bilocation and would have her doppelganger appear to people around her. She was amiable, quiet, and good-tempered, but of an anxious disposition and somewhat nervously excitable. The following is recounted as it was written of the incident. The story takes place in 1845 in the Pensionnat of Nieuwelke, an institution under the superintendence of Moravian directors. Over the months, similar phenomena were still repeated. The double sometimes imitated the original exactly, and sometimes not. The most remarkable phenomenon occurred one day when the 42 students were assembled in the same room, engaged in embroidery in a spacious hall on the first floor of the principal building. Through the windows, the young ladies had noticed Mademoiselle Saget in the garden, gathering flowers of which she was very fond. In the room sat another teacher, in charge of the pupils. After a time, this lady had occasion to leave the room, and her armchair was left vacant. It remained so, however, for a short time only. All of a sudden there appeared seated in it the figure of Mademoiselle Saget. The young ladies immediately looked into the garden, and there she still was, engaged as before. Only they remarked that she moved very slowly and languidly, as a drowsy or exhausted person might. Again they looked at the armchair, and there she sat, silent and without motion. The students had become used to this in a way, and two of the boldest students decided to get up and attempt to touch the apparition. They said that they did feel a slight resistance, which they likened to that which a fabric of fine muslin or crepe would offer to the touch. One of the two then passed close in front of the armchair, and actually passed through a portion of the figure. The apparition did not respond to this or change position. At last, it gradually disappeared, and then it was observed that Mademoiselle Saget resumed, with all her usual activity, her task of flower gathering. This phenomenon continued throughout the whole time that Mademoiselle Saget retained her position at Nieuwelke between 1845 and 1846. Eventually, parents began to worry about the strange events that their children told them. After 18 months, only 12 of the 42 students were left. Due to this, Saget was asked to resign from her position. Upon being asked to do so, it is said that Saget responded by saying in the presence of Julie de Guldenstubbe, "Ah, the 19th time, it is very, very hard to bear." When asked what she meant by such an exclamation, she confessed that previous to her engagement at Nieuwelke, she had been teacher in 18 different schools, having entered the first when only 16 years of age. After she left Nieuwelke, she went to live with a sister-in-law who had several quiet young children. Mademoiselle de Guldenstubbe, going to see her there, learned that the children all around 3 or 4 years of age all knew of it, being in the habit of saying that they saw two Aunt Emilies. Subsequently, she set out for the interior of Russia, and Mademoiselle de Guldenstubbe lost sight of her entirely. Another story of a doppelganger is that of John Donne, who we talked about in an earlier chapter. Isaac Walton claims that John Donne, the English metaphysical poet, saw his wife's doppelganger in 1612 in Paris, on the same night as the stillbirth of their daughter. This account first appears in the edition of Life of Dr. Rizvan Rising, published in 1675, and is attributed to a person of honor, told with such circumstances and such asseveration, that I verily believe he that told it to me did himself believe it to be true. 2 days after their arrival there, Mr. Donne was left alone in that room in which Sir Robert and he and some other friends had dinner together. To this place Sir Robert returned within half an hour, and as he left, so he found Mr. Donne alone, but in such ecstasy, and so altered as to his looks, as amazed Sir Robert to behold him in so much, that he earnestly desired Mr. Donne to declare what had befallen him in the short time of his absence. To which Mr. Donne was not able to make a present answer, but after a long and perplexing pause, did at last say, I have seen a dreadful vision since I saw you. I have seen my dear wife pass twice by me through this room, with her hair hanging about her shoulders, and a dead child in her arms. This I have seen since I saw you. To which Sir Robert replied, Sure, sir, you have slept since I saw you, and this is the result of some melancholy dream, which I desire you to forget, for you are now awake. To which Mr. Donne's reply was, I cannot be surer that I now live, than that I have not slept since I saw you, and am assured that at her second appearing, she stopped, looked me in the face, and vanished. The scientific research and paranormal tales pose firstly, evidence that thought can affect the material world, and secondly, that we should not discard all tales and stories that linger in the face of judgments as to their veracity. Entities created from thinking have been made evident as living beings that possess clarity and have a temporal life. Tulpas, egregores, sylphs, chimeras, cryptoterrestrials, and doppelgangers are all thought forms, or real living beings created from mental and emotional energy. They are made of energy and have a temporal life which is dependent on the clarity and intensity of the thought. In closing this chapter, I'm left with the perplexing possibilities or even probabilities that some UFOs might be of our own making. As I've mentioned before, the most difficult problems to solve are those that are the result of multiple reasons for the problem. Are UFOs extraterrestrial, interdimensional, spiritual, created from our own thoughts, or could they actually be all of the above?